It's weird. I don't think I had any fears or, like, any question of, like, do I want to go through with this? It was just, like, a yes.
Wow.
Yes type of thing.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
Perhaps you thought you'd never hear my voice again, but I am back. It's been a few months since I released the Black Lives Matter episode, and I've been kind of busy. I also haven't been doing very much traveling, so I am honestly running out of people to interview on this podcast, which is really sad. I hope that we end this pandemic soon so I can get back out there and bring you more amazing interviews from people around the world. That said, I have been getting creative, and I have 4 more interviews lined up for you guys that I am really, really excited about. This first one is from one of my friends from growing up who spent a year abroad during high school in Germany. Tianna is one of the closest people in my life, both as a friend and physically, geographically, which is why we actually got to record this episode in person. So like I said before, welcome back. We've got some great episodes coming up in the next few weeks, but for now, please enjoy this interview with my friend, Tianna. Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is a different kind of episode because we are in person for the first time on this podcast. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Tianna. I'm Sarah's neighbor and friend. And I'm on the podcast today.
Yes, you are. Welcome. So can you start by telling us where you are from? which is where I am from. Can you tell us where we are from?
Yes. Well, we live in Port Orchard, Washington.
Represent.
Which no one knows about, but it's close to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. And yeah, I've grown up here my whole life with Sarah.
What is something you'd recommend people who are first-time visitors to Washington State to see?
I would definitely recommend they just see Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Go to, like, all the tourist places, but also, like, visit Mount Rainier or the National Forest. That's always really pretty.
So, where are you living now? I know it's not that far away from here, but...
Well, I'm currently living in Bremerton, which is just the next city over to Port Orchard, but it also has ferry access to Seattle, so that's usually where I commute.
What would you say are some key differences between these two? I would say they're both very, like, typical Western Washington cities, but what are some differences between them?
I think in general, Bremerton has a more diverse and younger community, and Port Orchard is usually people that just kind of have resided there their whole life, or they retired there. So Bremerton has a little more going on in general, but it's nothing special.
No, I'd agree with that, yeah. And they feel very different, even though they're, like, super close together. Okay, this question is, you answered it a little bit already. I don't think it's super pertinent to this conversation, but how did we meet?
Well, I don't even know. Like, we're neighbors, but
yeah,
I guess we met because Sarah's younger sister, Emma, is my best friend. And so we became friends, and we went to the same preschool. And then Sarah was just kind of an add-on, and then I have an older sister, and so we all became friends, and that's it.
Yeah, so just to be clear, this is also a different kind of episode because you are not someone I met while traveling, unless it is just half a mile down the road that I traveled to see you.
That's true. We did take trips down the road.
What kind of traveler do you consider yourself?
Yeah, I would definitely consider myself a beginner traveler, and also I've never been on a tour, I don't think, and so I feel like I wouldn't enjoy that either, but it depends on where you're going, I think. Usually if I travel, I just kind of feel out the city, and that's it.
Okay, so have you always traveled your whole life with your family growing up, or did you only start when you were older?
Yeah, I guess this connects back to where I'm from, or where I was born, because I was born in China, so Me and my 2 other sisters are all adopted from there. And so we went there to adopt my younger sister when I was like 4 or 5.
Do you have memories of that?
Not really, but I have a lot of photos that I took while I was there, which count as my memories.
Yeah.
And then besides that, we mostly traveled like within the U.S. I don't think we've ever taken like an international trip as a family besides that.
Besides, like, have you been to Canada?
Yeah.
We're super close to Canada here, so everyone goes to Canada.
Yeah, you have to go at least like once while you're in the area.
Yeah. Do your parents do a lot of international travel before adopting you, or? Yes.
They both lived in Norway for a short stint, I think. I'm not sure the specifics at all. But they lived there, and I think they did some traveling around Europe, or at least my dad did, since he has family in Norway too. But other than that, I think they mainly stayed in the U.S. too, besides going to China.
Do you have any inclination or desire to go to Norway?
I kind of do. I've heard it's a really beautiful country, so I'm interested in it. And also meeting some of our family from that side, because I've never met any of them. So I think that'd be really interesting and different.
Yeah, I think so too. Awesome. So what do you do for work? What do you do in life? This is not as deep of a question as I'm making it. Just to get to know you a little bit better, like.
Yes. So I graduated high school at 18, and then I was working at McDonald's for some months after that. And then I got a job at a company my dad works for, actually doing a totally different job than he's doing, which is great because I don't want to work with him in that
no one wants to work with
capacity. But it's a healthcare company in Seattle. We actually just got acquired, so we're quite big now, but we used to just be like a little office unit. And it's been great. I mean, I'm working in Seattle. I became a supervisor pretty quickly, actually. And it's been a great job. And now we're all working from home, but I quite enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you married enough to your job where if they asked you to transfer to another state or another city to get like a higher position or something, would you do that with that company, you think?
They have some branches like all over the U.S., so I think it would depend on where they wanted me, but I definitely would be open to it because I think it'd be nice to live somewhere else and have a reason to move. And since I would have a job already, I think that'd be a great experience.
Yeah, I think why I'm asking that is I think there are a couple different types of people in this world. There are people who really get rooted in one place and either never leave that place or just travel the world but always come back. And then there are people who are willing to actually like uproot their lives and go somewhere else for a little while or for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how people feel about like their hometown, their home place.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard. I'd never want to think of myself as someone like who just stays in one place and always rooted to like basically their hometown. So I feel like, but I have to actually push myself if I want to move somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of like courage even to make a whole new community. Awesome. So before we get into the rapid fire, what is your favorite place that you've traveled in the world?
Okay, I haven't traveled to too many places internationally.
It can be in the U.S. too. It doesn't have to be international.
Probably internationally.
All right.
I guess for like sentimental reasons and the memes, it would be when we all went to Vancouver. It was Sarah and Emma and Lilia, and that was like the best just trip I've been on as a whole. It was just so much fun, even though we had some fails and like
we definitely had some travel fails.
Yeah. We stayed in the car like the majority of the time.
We got lost, yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
It was, yeah. And the thing about living in Seattle that's so nice is you can get to a foreign country that's so similar to the U.S., but also so you can tell you're in a foreign, like you feel like you're in a different country, and it's I think it's a real advantage for like a group of friends who live in a border city to be able to just go internationally together.
I just recalled when we were going and you forgot your passport.
Oh my god, yeah.
So that's always important. But yeah.
Here I am being like, I know all about foreign countries. Can't even remember a passport to get into Canada. Like, yeah, that was a fail on my part for sure. So this is Rapid Fire, aka Around the World in 20 Questions.
Ooh.
Number 1, plan it or wing it?
Planet.
Solo travel or group travel?
Group.
Do you pack heavy or light?
Light. No, heavy. Between.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Desert or rainforest?
Oh, rainforest?
Cities or nature?
Cities.
Road tripping or that cruise life?
Road tripping?
What is your favorite food from your travels?
Oh, when I went to Germany, bratwurst are everywhere, but that was my favorite thing ever.
What is your favorite drink from travel?
Oh, I don't think I like it as much anymore, but there is this, like, German beer named Schürferhofer. Yeah, it was just like a fruit beer.
On a plane, would you rather sit next to a really smelly person or a crying baby?
Oh, God. Probably a crying baby.
Any reasoning behind that?
I feel like you could block them out and a smell is just there.
Yeah. I agree. If you could attend a wedding anywhere in the world, what place or culture would it be in?
I mean, ideally, I would hope, like, Emma gets married in, like, Fiji or, like, somewhere tropical.
I hope that, too.
So, anywhere tropical, and then we can live our best tropical, like, wedding life.
Yes, that would be great. Coolest historical thing you've seen?
I feel like a lot of the, like, churches in Germany have, like, a lot of importance or history behind them.
Sure.
But nothing stands out.
Okay, yeah. Are you the kind of person who pays attention to historical things when you travel, or?
I think it depends. I mean, like, when I was in Germany, like, you see all these churches, but then there's, like, one in every city you go to, so then
yeah.
It's like, okay, we're kind of done here.
Yeah, for sure. Skydiving or scuba diving?
Ooh, scuba diving?
Would you rather take a cooking class or go on a ghost tour?
Definitely a cooking class.
All right. What's the most romantic place that you can think of to take someone on a date anywhere in the world?
The most basic one would be Paris.
Have you been to Paris?
No.
Oh. All right.
So
that's fair. No, that's a fair answer, though, yeah. What is your favorite souvenir item that you've brought back?
I'm not that into souvenirs anymore. Mm-hmm. Or, like, I like just kind of random pieces you can actually use, like a mug or maybe a pin or a patch or just something kind of small and random. When I was in Germany, the family I was staying with, the, like, father's mom gave me this Bayern, like, handkerchief kind of thing. I don't know how to describe it really, but it was cool and I have it still and I like it a lot.
Nice, yeah. No, I think for me, I only value souvenirs that have a specific story behind them. Like, I can't just go in a souvenir shop and buy something.
Yes.
So.
My favorite one, you gave me that cow
from
Italy.
From Venice. Yeah. Like, to have anything to bring back from Venice, weird glass animal art is...
Yes.
I'm proud of that decision.
It was a great one, yeah.
What is one essential thing you always pack other than, like, your passport, your phone? What is something you need?
I was actually just thinking about this, and I guess I don't, like, need it, but I feel like having, like, one of the 10-foot long, like, charging cords for your phone, or, like, even 6 feet is, like, a great thing to have because you never know where there's an outlet.
If your travels were made into a movie, what genre would it be?
I feel like it would probably be like a comedy that's like one of those comedies where everything just kind of falls apart and then it works out, sort of.
If you could live anywhere and money wasn't an issue, where would you live?
Since I haven't traveled to that many places, I would probably say I'd live in Germany because I loved everything about it so much. But I am curious in, like, Tokyo, Japan, or Japan in general.
So you mentioned, obviously, that you lived in Germany for a period of time. most of the people I've had on this podcast so far are people who have started traveling as adults, but you have a different story. Can you tell me what that specific experience was?
Yes. So when I was 15, I decided I wanted to study abroad for my next school year. And so we started looking at programs, and I went through one just like study abroad program. It wasn't an exchange one. So we chose that one, and then when in 2016, it was like July, I think, I left for Germany, and I was there until June of 2017. So it was a good whole year, basically, of just living in Germany with a family. They had a daughter that was pretty young, like 5, I think, 5 or 6. And it was in a small village. It was closer to like some bigger cities, but it was pretty small, and there wasn't a lot going on, but it was a great experience. And I got to travel around Germany a little bit, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that summary. I have a lot of follow-up questions about that. I think I have met very few people, and the only people I know who have done this are you and Olivia, who is one of yours and Emma's friends, who also did it the same year you did. And I haven't met anyone else, I think, in my life who's studied abroad during high school. Why did you decide to do it at that time in your life?
To be honest, I'm not like, there wasn't a specific reason. I think it was just something I wanted to do. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy high school, but I didn't have a lot going on with high school. In general, or just in my life. So it's something that was like different, and I really enjoyed the aspects of like, or idea of traveling, I guess. And I feel like it's such a great time when you're that young to get a different perspective on the world. So yeah, I just kind of went with it.
Yeah. So you were 15, right?
Yeah, I was 15. Well, I guess I was 16 when I actually went there.
So I don't think a lot of 15, 16-year-olds would feel comfortable doing that. Did you have any fears or hang-ups, and how did you overcome those?
It's weird. I don't think I had any fears or like any question of like, do I want to go through with this? It was just like a yes.
Wow.
Yes type of thing.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's kind of how I make all my decisions these days. I think when I was that age, I cared a lot more about how things were going to work out, and I'm like, go to Germany for a year? Yeah. Let's do it.
And I think I'm the opposite, where I think through stuff more.
Places.
Yeah.
What exactly, I know that you did an exchange or a study abroad where you were actually going to a school in Germany. What was that like? How much German do you speak, or did you speak?
Yeah. The main reason I chose Germany was because we have to take 2 years of a language in high school, and at our school, it was like Spanish and French and German and sign language. Yeah. And I think that was the 4. And looking back, it would have been best for me to take Spanish, but I didn't do that. So I took German, just because, I don't know, that's the language I wanted to learn, I guess. I didn't have interest in any of the others. So when I was looking for the country to go to, it made sense for me to go to Germany because I had taken a year of it by then. Then when I went to Germany, that class was not helpful whatsoever. That teacher was trash. Like, it was basically like starting from scratch when I went there, because everything we were taught in school, like, was just so confusing to everyone in Germany. Like, no one understood what you were saying, or it was just like, yeah, no, that's not how you say that at all. So yeah, I just had to kind of start over with that. And then I went to a school that was a 13-year school, and there's different levels of schooling in Germany. So some you only go for like 10 or 11 years, I think, and then you would switch to a technical school or something more specific to get into a certain job you want. So I went to a 13-year one, and I was placed in the grade below, and I had 2 classes that were in 11th grade, which is the grade I would have been in the U.S. And yeah, so I was put in this class that was catered towards people who were wanting to learn English more. And it was interesting. I feel like that school wasn't accustomed, I guess, to having like a person stay there for the whole year, so I don't think anyone realized I was going to be there the whole school year with them.
Like, when is she gonna leave?
Yeah. And then I had this like kind of one German class on the side that was focused on helping like any people who were kind of new to the school or new to Germany and try to teach them the language. But other than that, I was kind of on my own. And I feel like I definitely could have put more time into learning German also while I was there, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So.
I think when I think about it as a teenager, I don't think my first priority would be to become fluent in another language. I think I would want to be more in it for the adventure of being in a new country on my own.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of my outlook on it too.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. What things did you notice living in Germany for a year that are different from the US, whether it was in school or in like family life, or things that the things that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, just so much is different, but also the same. I think for school, you're in this one class and you're with those people in every like different, I guess, subject you take. So that's kind of nice that you're with the same group of people throughout basically your whole school career. Yeah, and then you have like 2 breaks and it ends at like, I think it ended at 2 p.m. and then you would like go home and then that's when you would actually have lunch and stuff like that, which I didn't care for as much because I would get hungry during the day. Yeah. So it didn't work towards me. But then, yeah, and then the family life, I feel like the structure is pretty similar. I mean, every family is pretty much has a different structure in Germany, too, it seems like. But it was similar to the U.S. It was weird because we would eat a big meal at lunchtime and then, like, bread and cheese for dinner, which I kind of enjoyed, and it makes more sense now. Like, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess another big thing is just transportation. It's just so normal to have a train and take that train anywhere you want, which makes it really nice. I mean, if you're younger and you can't drive, because their driving age is 18, so you can just go anywhere. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, that was enjoyable. Just taking the train to and from wherever.
Yeah. So now I want to know, like I said before, a lot of 15, 16-year-olds would probably be too intimidated to go live in a foreign country for a year, even if it is with a family. What did you take away? Like, how did you grow as a person over that year? What was different from when you left to when you came back?
Yeah, I definitely grew a lot. I definitely matured, and I gained like this new sense of confidence about myself, because I mean I still am a pretty shy and quiet person, but I think I broke out of my like shell a little bit more and just gained this like general confidence in myself and what I can do and who I am, which is great. I'm not sure that would have happened as quickly if I had stayed at our high school and just gone through that whole process.
Yeah. Would you recommend it to high schoolers? And like, what kind of people do you think are best equipped to go and do that kind of experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something everyone should experience and try to push themselves to do. Obviously, it's not fit for everyone, but I think they should all try to experience that. And at such a young age, I guess, I think it's really important to get that perspective. How
did you feel about I mean, I'm assuming your host family was super nice and accommodating and happy to have you. What about like other students in the school you were in, or did you make friends outside of school? Like, who became your community there?
Yeah, it took a long time for me to make close friends, I think. I was kind of just floating around. I don't think... It felt like the kids didn't really know, like, what to do about me. I was just, like, an extra person just kind of there that, like, didn't really speak German that well, and, like, they weren't confident to, like, speak English with me. And that happened for, like, months, and it wasn't until, I think, like, January of the next year that, like, I made friends and people, like, warmed up to me, and it was more of like a community feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, with the program I was with, we went as a group with like, I'm not even sure, like people from US, Mexico, and then some like Asian countries. And we all went to Frankfurt, Germany, and stayed there for a week in a hostel. And then that's when like we all got to know each other. So I kind of relied on those people that I met then to like basically have someone to talk to about what we're experiencing for like those first 6 months, I guess. And then after that, I kind of broke out of my shell, I guess.
Do you miss living in a foreign country?
I definitely do. I think there's just so many like different and great aspects, and especially in Germany, like social norms or like things that they have in place in their country just make like so much more sense than the US. Like,
yeah. Tell me more about that. What are you said Germany is one of your favorite places you've been,
yes.
right? Why do you love Germany? I have been to Germany once 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't in that much of it. Like I was in the southern part. I saw some castles, some churches, stuff like that. And then I was more on like the Austria border. And I don't have a strong desire to go back to Germany, but I have heard really, really good things about it. I just tell me more. I want a reason to go, you know?
I feel like it's nothing specific actually. It's just kind of the vibe.
Sure, yeah.
I guess. Like one thing that stands out is they have a system for plastic bottles where like they add a price if you buy like a water bottle or something. It's like 7 cents. But then you return your plastic bottle and you get your money back that you put down for it, which just makes so much sense, like recycling wise. Like then that way, even people who are like homeless in the city, then they're collecting these plastic bottles and then they're getting some money back.
Yeah.
And that just seems so logical. Or like even if you're driving, some of the roads don't have speed limits, which makes sense to me more.
Like the Autobahn?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can just drive however, and
that's so interesting. I feel like that would be such a problem in our country. Like,
yeah, I feel like, oh gosh, I can't even imagine it. I feel like it could work, but it would be different.
It would be different. We just have so many reckless drivers. You know, that might make sense why their driving age is 18.
Yeah. But it's different because their driving age is 18, but their drinking age is 16.
Ooh.
And then kids who are like 14, 13 are drinking
yeah.
already. And that's like crazy, but it kind of makes sense. And I feel like I approve of it and I'd like it to be a thing here.
There's a lot of countries that I've heard of and then I've seen. Germany, I'm thinking of like Italy, France, where the drinking age is much younger, and even if you aren't old enough to drink, your parents will let you have like a glass of wine with dinner or something because it's like a cultural thing. And when I studied abroad in Italy, I had a professor who was saying, I think it's just so much healthier for kids to observe healthy drinking habits from that age and to learn how to do them. Whereas like here in the US, we're like, it's so taboo to drink under 21 that it becomes like this exciting, like, like breaking the rules. And then when people do it, they just go so hard, which I think there are times for that. Let me just put that out there. I'm not against like having a rager, but I think it's important to teach kids growing up what the right consumption is and how to take care of yourself around it. And
yeah, I completely agree. And also it's like they kind of get their like partying out early, which I feel like might be an aspect of like, or a reason why Germany decided to kind of have that way of like drinking when you're 16, just because then when you're like 20, by then you're probably you're over it.
Yeah. That makes sense, yeah. And I guess it would make sense that you can drink before you can drive so that people don't drink and drive. Yeah. Hopefully.
Like, I think since I've been there, then you get, like, used to knowing how you are when you're drinking or, like, your limit. So that way you are more responsible if you do intend to drive or go somewhere or something like that. Not that I recommend driving.
Right. We we don't sponsor drinking and driving. Click it or ticket over here.
Yes.
I think the other thing that's interesting about I don't know if this is for sure. Maybe Britain has it too, or England. But like the sorority fraternity community in college, and just like the party atmosphere of college is something I think that's pretty unique to the U.S. And I would assume that if kids can drink from the age of like 14 or 16, they start drinking when they're still living with their families. And so if anything does go wrong, they have a support system in place, whereas kids in the U.S., they go off to college and all of a sudden they can do whatever they want because their family's not around. But that means when they do get in a bad situation, there's only a whole bunch of other young adults around who don't know what to do. It's interesting. Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, and usually the parents are fine with kind of, like, maybe they don't, want it to happen.
Right.
But they'll
not,
still pick you up.
But yeah. So you went and did that year in Germany when you were in high school. Since then, what kind of traveling have you done?
Besides that, Lilia, my older sister, and I actually went to London for a week, I think, and then we also traveled to Germany, and I stayed there a little longer than her, and visited, like, my friends in Germany, too. And that was great. I guess we both loved. We both loved Germany, I think, and staying there. We were at like a nicer hostel that wasn't too expensive. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really enjoy London that much, but this trip was also kind of just let's just go and do this. Like,
right, it was kind of last minute.
Why not? Yeah. And we didn't plan anything, and we didn't think it through. So, like, we flew, I forget where we flew to. But I think we flew into Manchester, and then we took a train to London, and then we arrived in London, and it was like almost midnight, and obviously none of the trains are like working anymore, and it was like a walk to our hostel, and we didn't know what to do, and it was like all kind of
jet lag,
phased, and I don't know, it was not great. So we ended up taking a taxi, and that I feel like didn't start the trip off that well. And then besides that, we were kind of just like walking around the whole time, and I didn't realize like how far stuff in London is.
Yeah.
So
it's a big city.
I feel like in Germany, like the cities are kind of, they may be bigger, but you can still walk everywhere pretty much. And in London, it's like this whole sprawl, and we didn't realize that and plan anything, and it was exhausting.
Yeah, I like going to really walkable cities. I have kind of a similar story, but it's more of a fun story than our first night in London. When I was in Paris by myself the first time, I got in, and my flight had been delayed like 6 hours for the New York to Paris leg. And so I got in much later than I thought. It was like the middle of the afternoon, and I was carrying my bags, and I think I walked all the way from the train station to my hostel, which was quite far, but I didn't really know how to use taxis or anything then. I didn't have Wi-Fi on my phone or internet, so I couldn't call an Uber or anything. And that was fine. I got into my hostel, which actually turned out to be a really bad hostel that I didn't know at the time. It was like my first time staying in a hostel. And then that night, I didn't sleep at all. I was like, I'm just going to stay up as late as I can so that I'll sleep through the morning, because of the time difference. So I went out, I took a shower, I got dressed up, I went out, and I went walking around the city, which is also kind of spread out. I mean, you can walk certain parts, but you have to be a good walker. And I ended up going and like sitting by the river and watching some people dancing tango, which was interesting. And then I ended up going to a salsa club. And this was all in the span of the same, like, I hadn't slept in so many hours at this point. And I went to a salsa club, and I took a salsa class, and then I was dancing, and it was like 11 p.m. and I was just crashing because I hadn't slept in so long. And so I decided to go home, and I get out, and I'm like, start walking towards the hostel, which is about an hour's walk away.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm trying to like figure out how to hail a taxi. I don't have a way to look it up, and I like don't want to just start waving at cars, because I just like, I was it was my first time like alone in like a city where I didn't speak the language, and it was so interesting. So I ended up walking an hour in the dark in Paris all the way across the city back to my hostel. I would have to look up to see what the actual distance was, but it took me an hour to walk that far, so it was probably pretty far. And I just like didn't see that many people out, and looking back now, I'm like, why wasn't I scared? But like I was just like so jet lagged and tired that I was like just walking like, is there a taxi? And a Claire shop over there, where's my hostel? Oh, there it is. And then I passed out and slept for like 12 hours because I was so tired. But it's yeah, I think it's always, I've had a couple experiences where the first day or the first night trying to get around, trying to figure out how to use the transportation system and stuff is just really stressful. And once you get beyond that, then you can have a really good time. So you just can't be discouraged by that.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And like Wi-Fi is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I found that in London, like it was hard to find Wi-Fi. And in Germany, I think it's easier, but everywhere in London you had to like pay, or it was like some thing that would like block you, and you couldn't use it without doing something. Yeah, and so I definitely like recommend planning your arrival, because once you like fly in, you're like, oh my god, I'm here, and then you're like, oh wait, but like how do I get here? Also, my maps isn't working and I don't know where I am.
Yeah, I would say definitely travel tip for everyone listening. The first thing to do when you get into a city, if you can, is to get a SIM card with internet. So you can at least look up where to go, or call an Uber, or Google whatever you need to do. Because wandering around without internet is doable, but it sucks sometimes. So
yeah, it can be fine, but then like, you know, one wrong turn and it becomes stressful and panic.
You're usually carrying your bags around and you're just sweaty from getting off the plane. Yeah, it's a whole thing. All right, so kind of along that same story that you just shared, do you have any other travel mishaps or horror stories?
Yes. So when I was coming back from Germany, I flew into Newark.
Is it the first time or the second time?
This is the first time.
So coming back from
my study abroad, yeah. I flew into Newark, and then from there I had a flight home. I think it was Newark, home to Seattle. And because of like customs and that just takes so long, which I definitely recommend assessing and making sure that time fits in if you're doing a connecting flight. Like that flight to Seattle had gone canceled, or like it was just, I couldn't get on it basically. And so I was just stuck at, I think I flew then to like Minneapolis or one of the M-state airports. Minneapolis, maybe? I don't know. Ended up having like to sleep there for the night because I got there at like midnight, and so I slept in the airport, and then 6 a.m. I flew to Seattle. But that was just like an insane travel day, I think. Yeah. Like you never expect to just kind of sleep in an airport.
In that vein, I like to talk about like mental health and travel as it relates to travel. Did you have any struggles with your mental health when you spent a year abroad or in your other travels?
For the year abroad, I think it didn't like hit me that I wasn't going to be with my family for the year, and that's usually how like my emotions are. Right. They kind of like hit at the last moment, and then you're like, oh shit, this is happening. So it was like I was just like sobbing at the airport and saying goodbye to them, and then like that like next 48 hours when I was like traveling to Germany, and like my first couple of nights at the hostel were like just, they were great, but they were awful also because I was like missing everyone, and some of the Wi-Fi was spotty, so I couldn't like talk to them, and I was just missing everything. And then after that I was like doing great. I didn't, no offense family, but I didn't miss you at all. Like I was just,
shout out to the Dream family.
I didn't miss you. So yeah, then I was just fine. I was like, even though I didn't have any like friends, like I feel like that kind of wore on me a little bit while I was there, but it wasn't anything that made me like really sad or anything like that. And then it was weird when, I think it was like May, so a month or like a month and a half before I left Germany, I got like sad again, kind of, and missed my family a lot and was so excited to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted, like, I feel like a couple weeks at least. And then I realized, like, oh shit, I'm going to be leaving Germany.
Right.
And so then I was, like, out of it, and I was like, I don't want to go home.
Oh, yeah. Lots of ups and downs there.
Yeah, but otherwise, I was just doing my thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that it wasn't too hard for you mentally, because I could see how certain people, especially at that age, would have a hard time being away from home for that long.
Yeah, I feel like just my mindset then was just kind of very, like, I'm doing my own thing.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah, and honestly, looking back now, from how long ago was that? Like 5 years ago?
Oh, God.
4 years ago? Yeah, like, it seems like such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Now. Like a year. A year seems like such a short amount of time to be somewhere else. But then at that age, it feels like a long time. So do you have any advice for people who are traveling long term or who are living away from their family for a long time about staying mentally healthy and feeling those feelings? And
yeah, I mean, definitely just, like, feel those feelings, like, let it out. I mean, it was great because I could just always talk to, like, you and Emma and the bros, which is you, Emma, and Lilia, which I think helped a lot. Like, just trying to keep, if you have, like, Wi-Fi or service, like, just trying to stay in contact, or, you know, like, really push yourself to try to meet new people, because if you're with other people that are traveling, there's definitely at least one person that will, like, feel the same way as you. So definitely, like, relying on them, too, to kind of talk through your feelings or emotions at the time is great.
Did you feel like your host family was pretty open about that, too?
Yeah, I really didn't talk to them like that, though, I don't think. Yeah. But I knew they, like, I think they were surprised because I feel like I did show I wasn't really missing my family that much. And so I feel like they were kind of prepared for me to be more down about it.
Right. They were like, we have a box of tissues and some tea, and you're like, nah, I'm gonna go drink some fruity beer with my German friends. Who is the most interesting person you have met? While traveling, not just in general, because I know in general it's either me or Emma, one of the
Larry Nelson.
Larry Nelson.
Oh gosh, I feel like I actually haven't met that many interesting people while traveling. Ooh, tea.
No shade.
I mean, I guess this is a very, like, broad, I guess, type of interesting.
Sure.
But my friend Margaret's host mom, because she was another study abroad student, her family was crazy. Like, her host mom was insane. So she was quite interesting because she was, like, compared to, like, how my host family was, they were, like, pretty chill about everything, and she just would get mad about everything. And I stayed with her, like, twice, I think. And so she was quite interesting.
Wow. That is definitely a different version of interesting than I was thinking of, but that's just interesting all the same. I'm going to get into some of my wrap-up questions. What is a big lesson or takeaway from traveling for you?
Just in general, like, everyone's different. Every culture is different. Like, I guess you just, like, can't predict how a country will be like. You can't, like, stereotype it because it's just always going to be different than what you think. Personally, for me, it was, like, surprising how many people where I lived didn't actually speak English, because I feel like Americans have this sense of, like, anywhere you go in the world, people will speak English, which is wrong.
It's very wrong.
It's completely wrong.
I have been very many places where I could not speak to anyone. Right, but Germany is one of those places that we expect for some reason to know English, just because they're one of those more post-industrial Western countries. But
I think you hear it a lot also, like, if you're looking up, like, stuff about Germany, it's like, oh yeah, everyone there speaks English, and that's not true. A lot of people, like, it's more, I feel like it's rare to find people that really speak English, or if they're like confident in speaking English too.
Yeah.
They may know like a little bit, but most of the time it's just like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they, so in like German schools, I know I have a friend, Clemens, shout out Clemens.
Ooh.
He's on the podcast before. He's from Austria, and he learned English in like high school. But then he really got good at it from living in New Zealand and traveling and living in Canada and stuff. But do they teach classes in both languages though?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how it is here though. Like, they have like English classes, and I think most schools probably offer an English class, and like everyone kind of has to take it.
Right.
But then I feel like unless someone's really interested in learning English, then they're just not going to pursue it like that.
Interesting.
Which I guess is like if we learned like Spanish here, say, and then like we just did it for high school, we're not really going to pursue it unless if we have a deeper interest.
Is travel for everyone?
I don't think so. I feel like most people, but I mean, it feels like being in Port Orchard, there's a lot of people probably that would like not think about it.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go to Oregon. That's crazy of me.
Right.
But there's just like a whole other world out there that people like just don't have that like curiosity, I guess, or like inclination to see. And I hope everyone travels or sees like a different country at least.
Where do you want to go next?
Like, at the moment, I really want to go somewhere tropical.
Yeah.
But I would also just love to go back to Germany and then also visit Japan.
Travel recommendations. So, obviously, Germany, you know a lot about, but anywhere in the world, what could you give us, like, your top 3 recommendations for people to travel to?
I mean, in the US, this is kind of like, I feel like people don't really think about visiting here too often, but going to Moab, Utah, and seeing like Arches National Park and then I mean, the Coop just has a place in my heart.
Yes, Vancouver, Canada, y'all.
Oh gosh, it's just such a great like city to be in.
It is.
With like the Granville Market and I don't know, it's just such a cool city. And
There's
then
a lot of stuff to do. It's really physically beautiful. There's a lot of different types of people there.
It's just love it.
It's great. It's like Seattle, but way better.
Yeah, it's like a cool hip Seattle that Seattle wishes it could be, but it's not because it's gross and dirty. Oh, and then my third one would probably be I went to Hamburg, Germany twice, and it's, you know, in the north. And it is a gorgeous city. I really enjoyed it. I don't have, like, a specific reason why, but it was just a great city.
Just the vibes.
And, like, German cities are just so clean and nice. And they usually have, like, a fish smell at one point. Yeah. Which is random, but other than that, they're great.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Yeah, I definitely get what you mean about, like, just the general feel and the vibe. Because there are some places where I've been and I tell people to go there, and they're like, well, what should I see? And I'm like, I don't even remember what I saw there. I just remember loving being there.
Yeah, just, like, walking around. I feel like that's the best way to explore a city is just, like, you can do, like, all the tourist stuff, but then also just walking and seeing everything, or, like, going to a cafe and doing, like, little things.
Do you want to add anything about your experience with your study abroad or with travel in general?
Definitely, like, visit Germany if you can. And I feel like maybe go to cities that not everyone goes to, that aren't, like, the tourist cities. Even, like, any small ones are really nice.
Tianna, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for being here, first of all. I'm really glad that I got someone who is so close in my life and who is not just someone I met while traveling, although I love you all. Shout out to you all. But I think it's important as we grow with our friends and with our family to go out and live our own lives and have our own experiences around the world and bring that back to the people who care about us.
100%. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Friendly Faces, Amazing Places. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one with Tianna. I think she has a really interesting travel experience to share. If you want to see pictures of Tianna's time in Germany or pictures of me with Tianna in Vancouver, go ahead and check them out on our Instagram at Friendly Faces, Amazing Places, or on Facebook at Friendly Faces, Amazing Places Podcast. If you want to hear more episodes from this podcast, they are available everywhere you get podcasts: Spotify, Apple Music, even on YouTube. And finally, keep an eye out in the coming weeks for some more amazing episodes. I'm Sarah, I'll see you later.